So I'm introducing myself here. My origin is trader, because a lot of people think I'm a professor, or a lot of people think I'm a writer, so I give a little bit of so that's my national origin. I was a trader doing these kind of weird things. And then I got downgraded myself to becoming a pit trader. Those people who, stand in a pit, sweat a lot. The smell is not conveyed by the picture, but you can understand. And you spend 6 hours on your feet. I did that from quantitative trader, for the experience, and I fell in love with markets, how prices develop. Price formation is a very difficult thing. Still don't understand it. Then it was so difficult trading in a pit that I went to do this for retirement, largely because I can't do tennis, so this was easier. So I became a professor at NYU and focusing on things. So it's pretty much backwards. So I went from practice, sorry, this doesn't go backwards. No, this doesn't go backwards. Yeah, it does. So I went from practice to theory, rather than go from theory to practice, which means that you make enemies in theory and you make enemies in practice, because you don't have the same culture in both. And now this is the Technical Incerto I'm embarking on, and the first volume is out. It's on something we'll discuss during the fireside chat. But the first volume is about fat tails, how most of history comes from random events that are very consequential, and in an environment that I call scalable. And I've discovered yesterday, visiting my friends, that this becomes scalable. Whatever was limited to artisanal production becomes scalable. I mean, surgery is not scalable yet. The best surgeon in the world cannot see 1 million people in a day, but an author, you write a book once and that's it. Luckily, you can I'm very lazy, so it's great. You write a book, every time someone buys it, you don't have to rewrite it. You see, unlike surgery or other professions. But thanks to this, a lot of professions are becoming scalable. Even dentistry. I mean, you can make 1 million teeth, all right? You don't have to be there except for the first one. Anyway, so that was the first block of research, fat tails, what I call fat tails extreme events, on which later. Now, let's talk about fragility. So before we talk about robustness, resilience, stuff like that, we need to define fragility. And so, again, I mean, I went into research because I was incompetent in anything else, outside trading. So I couldn't play tennis. So the first thing I realized, looking at a coffee cup, is that we had a definition of fragility. I was an option trader, trading volatility. And I realized there were packages that like volatility and packages that hate volatility. The same thing was right there staring at me. Look, I mean, the coffee cup I was looking at, I'm lying, was not as attractive as this one. It was an ugly coffee cup. Not Starbucks, but an ugly coffee cup. Anyway, so I realized that it did not like volatility. So here we have the definition of fragility, and from there we can figure out anti-fragility. If you're fragile to some classes of events, you can have the reverse reaction to them. You can gain from shocks. So my definition of fragility came with this. I don't know. This is fragile. So with the following very simple thing: everything fragile on this planet must have acceleration of harm. And this I figured it out from trading. Like if the market goes down 1%, so I'm removing this so people don't read the slide. So if the market is down 1%, say you lose 1 million, down 2%, you lose another 5 million. So there is acceleration, and that acceleration is quite universal, and that applies to us. If we jump 10 meters, we die. 10 meters is a lot worse than 10 times 1 meter. And why is this necessary? Because if you're linear to harm, okay, if you're linear to harm, just walking from here to the whatever would kill you because a lot of shocks. So we're sort of insensitive to small shocks, then we get disproportionately more sensitive to others, because everything that's linear to harm is already gone. So everything fragile is going to be nonlinear to harm. And we're going to see everything anti-fragile will be nonlinear to harm, and everything I'm going to be talking about for the rest of my life is based on that very simple point. So this is the coffee cup. It is nonlinear to harm, because I tap on a coffee cup, it doesn't break. Then a little more, it breaks. And we're going to see why averages don't matter anymore, and many things that come with the idea. So second order effects is effectively what we got to concentrate on. And you can see that really with the pandemic, okay? The supply chain. Second order effect is when, I put some equations here just to wake people up. Let me remove and put pictures. So second order effect, you can see it easily. Don't cross the river is on average 4 feet deep. And translate it into French, it's a convex function of an average or whatever. So you get that. You can also translate into Russian, where it's even more theoretical. So that's what I call convexity effect. But you can see it with the supply chain story. If you consume 0 for 1 year and 200 units the second year, it's going to be a lot worse than if you consume 100 the first year and 100 the second year. So we have we can figure it out if the market causes fragility or not in some domains. Okay, unevenness, you want steadiness. We are fragile to temperature. For example, I'd rather have 70 degrees today and 70 degrees tomorrow rather than 0 degrees today. We're not close to it, but it feels like it, all right, sort of like today in Boston. All right, anyway, 0 degrees today and 140 tomorrow. You see the idea. So whatever is fragile depends heavily on second order effect. And that's quite universal. So I'm taking this, of course, in 40 minutes I'm not going to be able to cover a lot, but I'm taking this as an interesting territory, is that size causes fragilities. And it was a very simple example, a large stone. If someone threw this at my head, you'd have someone else to replace. You need someone else to replace me for the continuation of the session because I won't be here. But if you took the big thing, the big rock, and broke it into pebbles and threw them progressively at my head, nothing would happen. So you see, there is a size effect, and pretty much everything in finance, everything that breaks, bankruptcies, all of these come from acceleration of harm. Because if you're very sensitive to harm in the beginning, it would show. So it has to be hidden, harm has to be hidden, and then accelerate. Just like if you smash a car against the wall 1,000 times at 1/10 of a kilometer per hour, nothing's going to happen. But once at 1,000 kilometers per hour, you know what's going to happen, right? So this is that acceleration. And you can see very easily this can explain why an elephant is very fragile. If you push an elephant, I'm not inviting you, it's a thought experiment to push an elephant, but if you push an elephant off this stage, it would break a leg. Now, I'm not inviting you to push elephants off the stage, it's a thought experiment, and when elephants break a leg, they're gone. This is why we don't have a lot of elephants. They're vastly more efficient than a mouse, metabolically. Heart rate 50 versus 200. But guess what? A mouse, you can throw a mouse, it won't even notice. It will laugh at you, all right? So if you throw a mouse off the stage or something, many times it's height. So there is an effect of diseconomies of scale that comes with fragility because of that nonlinearity. And that's also universal. We have, I don't know about Boston, but in New York we have at least 8 million mice. Nobody counted them, so you can imagine, because they don't vote, it's not precise. But you can imagine, and we don't have a lot of elephants, all right? So that explains why small companies tend to survive shocks a lot better than large companies, particularly when there are squeezes. So, all of this now, hopefully I'll confuse you a little bit in the next 2-3 slides, is linked to options, because options have nonlinear payoff. And whatever has this optionality likes volatility and likes uncertainty for some weird reason. And then we look at fragility as an inverse of that. The other side of the coin is the fragile. And basically, I'm going to confuse you one more time and then it becomes easy, all right? If you like one of these, you like them all. So if you like, and let me explain how. If you like uncertainty, you will like time. Why? Time brings uncertainty. You see, with time, if the coffee cup, there's no coffee cup here, but if we had a coffee cup on the table, you know that over time it's going to break because you're going to have an earthquake or something, okay? So time, uncertainty, shocks, stressors, entropy, all of these go in the same direction. If you like one, you like them all. This is why I call them the Soda Brothers, like like the brothers that move, furniture in New York City. So the Soda Brothers. So it took me 10 years to really formalize this idea that if you like one, you like them all.